Marcus Thompson had been sleeping in his truck in the VFW parking lot for 3 weeks because his own house felt like a combat zone. The walls closing in and every sound registering as a threat his body would not let him ignore. When a black man in a leather vest tapped on his window and said he was not there to cause trouble, just wanted to make sure Marcus was okay, said he had slept in his own truck enough times to know it was not the most comfortable place to spend the night. What happened after Darnell Jackson said those two words that changed everything? Me too. After Marcus found the Black Knights MC and their brotherhood of veterans who understood, without explanation, and after he learned that healing meant helping others heal, proved that the most powerful thing you can offer someone drowning in their own mind is not advice or solutions, but the simple truth that they are not alone. Marcus Thompson had been sleeping in his truck for 3 weeks when Darnell Jackson found him. It was a Tuesday night in late October, cold enough that breath fogged the windows, and Darnell had pulled into the parking lot of the VFW hall to drop off some supplies for the weekend fundraiser. He noticed the pickup truck in the corner of the lot, windows steamed up, engine off, someone inside who was either sleeping or trying very hard to look like it. Darnell was 54 years old, a retired Army sergeant who had done 3 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan before his body told him it was time to stop. He had been riding with the Black Knights MC for 12 years, had helped found their veteran outreach program, and had spent enough nights in his own truck to recognize what he was looking at. He walked over and tapped on the window. The man inside jerked awake, hand reaching for something that was not there, eyes wild with the particular fear of someone who had learned that sleep was dangerous. He was young, maybe late 20s, black, with the kind of lean muscle that came from military training, and the kind of hollow eyes that came from not using it anymore. Darnell held up his hands, showing he was not a threat. He said he was not here to cause trouble. Said he just wanted to make sure the man was okay. Said he had slept in his own truck enough times to know that it was not the most comfortable place to spend the night. The man stared at him for a long moment. Then he rolled down the window, letting the cold air rush in. He said his name was Marcus. He said he was fine. He said he just preferred sleeping out here sometimes. Darnell nodded. He did not push. He just asked if Marcus wanted some coffee. They sat in Darnell's truck, with the heat running, drinking coffee from a thermos Darnell always kept in his saddlebag. Marcus did not say much at first, just wrapped his hands around the cup and stared out the windshield at the dark parking lot, his shoulders tight with the tension of someone who was always waiting for something bad to happen. Darnell did not push him to talk. He had learned a long time ago that veterans opened up when they were ready, not when you demanded it. So he just sat there, drinking his own coffee, letting the silence be comfortable instead of awkward. After about 20 minutes, Marcus started talking. He had been Army, infantry, 2 tours in Afghanistan. He had been out for 18 months now, living with his wife and 2 kids in a house they had bought with his VA loan. Good neighborhood, good schools, everything he was supposed to want, but he could not sleep inside. He did not know how to explain it. The walls felt like they were closing in. The ceiling felt too low. Every creak of the house, every car passing outside, every sound his kids made in their sleep, it all registered as a threat. His body would not let him rest. So he had started sleeping in the truck. Just sometimes at first when it got really bad. But sometimes had turned into most nights, and most nights had turned into every night. And now here he was, sleeping in a parking lot because his own home felt like a combat zone. His wife did not understand. How could she? She had never woken up to mortar fire. She had never learned to sleep with one eye open. She thought he was pulling away from her, from the kids, from the life they had built together. Maybe he was. He did not know anymore. Darnell listened to all of this without interrupting. When Marcus finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that Marcus would remember for the rest of his life. He said, "Me too. Hit subscribe if you believe that understanding can save a life. Comment where you're watching from, and share this with someone who needs to know that they are not alone." Darnell told Marcus about his own journey. He told him about coming home from his first tour and jumping at every loud noise, about scanning every room for exits and threats, about lying awake in bed while his wife slept beside him, unable to close his eyes because closing your eyes in a combat zone got you killed. He told him about the nights he spent in his garage, then his car, then a tent in the backyard, because at least outside he could see what was coming. About his wife crying and asking what was wrong with him, about feeling like he was broken in ways that could never be fixed. He told him about the years it took to get better, the therapy that helped some, the medication that helped some, the brotherhood of other veterans who helped most of all. He said the Black Knight's MC was full of guys like them, veterans who understood what it meant to come home to a body that would not stop fighting a war that was already over. They did not judge. They did not push. They just showed up again and again until you believed that you were not as alone as you felt. Darnell asked if Marcus would be willing to come to a meeting. Nothing formal, just some guys sitting around, drinking coffee, talking about whatever they wanted to talk about. No pressure, no obligations, just brothers who got it. Marcus hesitated. He had tried support groups before, the VA kind with fluorescent lights and uncomfortable chairs, and therapists who had never heard a shot fired in anger. They meant well, but they did not understand. Darnell said this was different. This was veterans talking to veterans. Bikers who had been where Marcus was and found their way through. Marcus said he would think about it. Darnell said that was enough for now. Marcus showed up at the Black Knight's clubhouse the following Saturday. He almost did not come. Sat in his truck in the parking lot for 15 minutes, arguing with himself, coming up with reasons to leave. But something Darnell had said kept echoing in his head. Me too. 2 words that had done more for him than 18 months of struggling alone. The clubhouse was not what he expected. It was a converted warehouse on the edge of town, with motorcycles parked out front and music playing inside. The men who greeted him were black, like him, veterans like him, wearing leather vests with patches that told stories he understood without having to ask. Darnell met him at the door and introduced him around. "This is Marcus, Army, 2 tours. He is one of us." That was all he said. No explanation of why Marcus was there. No mention of the truck or the sleepless nights or the war that would not stay in the past. Just, he is one of us. The meeting was informal, just like Darnell had promised. A dozen veterans sitting in a circle, drinking coffee, talking about their weeks. Some talked about work. Some talked about family. Some talked about nightmares that still woke them up and sounds that still made them flinch. Nobody judged. Nobody offered advice unless it was asked for. They just listened, nodded, said, "Yeah, brother, I know." Marcus did not talk much that first time. Just sat and listened and let the reality sink in that he was not the only one. That there were other men who slept in their trucks and jumped at loud noises and loved their families but could not figure out how to live with them. He was not broken. He was injured. And injured could heal. If you're enjoying this story, hit that hype button right now. It's free, takes a second, and helps this video reach more people who need to see it. Now back to the story. Marcus started coming to the clubhouse every week. At first, he just listened, sat in the circle, drank his coffee, absorbed the stories of men who had walked the same road he was walking. But slowly, as the weeks passed, he started to open up. He told them about Afghanistan, about the convoy that got hit by an IED, the friends he lost, the sounds and smells that still ambushed him at unexpected moments. He told them about the guilt of surviving when others did not, about the anger that had no target, about the exhaustion of being constantly vigilant in a world that did not require vigilance. The brothers listened, some nodded, some shared their own versions of the same story. Nobody tried to fix him. They just let him know that he was heard. Darnell became something like a mentor, though he would never have used that word. He checked in on Marcus during the week, just quick texts or calls, asking how he was doing, reminding him that help was available if he needed it. He introduced Marcus to other resources, veteran-specific therapists who actually understood, programs that helped with the transition to civilian life. He also taught Marcus to ride a motorcycle. Marcus had never been on a bike before, had always thought they were too dangerous, too exposed, but Darnell said that was exactly the point. On a bike, you could not hide. You had to be present, aware, engaged with the world around you. It was like meditation, except with an engine. The first time Marcus really rode, on the open highway with the wind hitting his face and the engine rumbling beneath him, he felt something he had not felt in years. Freedom. Not freedom from his memories or his injuries. Those were still there, but freedom to exist in the present moment, to feel something other than fear, to remember that his body was capable of more than just surviving. He understood why they called themselves the Black Knights. They were warriors, all of them, fighting battles that nobody else could see. Marcus moved back into the house 3 months after meeting Darnell. It was not easy. The walls still felt close sometimes. The sounds still registered as threats. But he had tools now, strategies that the therapist Darnell connected him with had taught him. Grounding exercises, breathing techniques, ways to remind his body that he was safe even when his nervous system insisted otherwise. More importantly, he had people. The Black Knights became his extended family, brothers who understood without explanation, men he could call at 3 a.m. when the nightmares hit, who would talk him down without judgment, who would remind him that this moment would pass. His wife Keisha noticed the change. She had been patient through all of it, patient and scared, and unsure what to do with this man who had come home from war looking like her husband but acting like a stranger. She had never pushed him to explain, never demanded that he be someone he could not be. But now, she was seeing glimpses of the man she had married, the one who laughed at her jokes and played with their kids, and looked at her like she was the best thing that had ever happened to him. Marcus told her about the Black Knights, about Darnell and the meetings and the motorcycle rides that had become his therapy. He told her that he was not fixed, might never be fully fixed, but he was healing, and healing was enough. Keisha cried when he told her, not sad tears, relieved tears. The tears of someone who had been holding their breath for 18 months and could finally exhale. She asked if she could come to one of the rides sometime, said she wanted to meet the people who had helped bring her husband back to her. Marcus said he would like that. The Black Knights welcomed Keisha like she was family, because she was. The club was not just for veterans. It was for everyone who loved them, everyone who stood beside them, everyone who bore the weight of their invisible wounds, the wives and husbands and children who had their own version of service, their own sacrifices, their own battles. Keisha met other spouses at the cookouts and rides, women and men who understood what it was like to love someone who was fighting a war inside their own head. They shared strategies and frustrations and the small victories that kept them going. She learned that she was not alone either. Marcus watched his wife find her own community, her own support system, and felt something shift inside him. For so long, he had felt like a burden, like his problems were too heavy for anyone else to carry. But here, was an entire network of people carrying similar weights, helping each other, refusing to let anyone fall. He started giving back. At first, it was small things, checking in on new guys who showed up at the clubhouse, with the same hollow eyes he used to have, sharing his story when it might help, being the guy who said me too when someone needed to hear it. Then Darnell asked him to help run the veteran outreach program. The club had been doing outreach for years, connecting with veterans in need, offering support and resources and brotherhood. But they needed more hands, more voices, more people who could reach the guys who were still sleeping in their trucks and drowning in their own homes. Marcus said yes. If Bike Diaries has become part of your week, consider joining the channel membership. Just a couple bucks a month keeps these stories coming. Links below. And hit that hype button if you haven't already. Now back to the story. 2 years later, Marcus found another veteran sleeping in a parking lot. It was a strip mall this time, behind a grocery store, a truck tucked into the corner where nobody would notice. Marcus noticed because he knew what to look for. The steamed windows, the engine off, the shape of someone trying to rest in a seat that was never meant for sleeping. He tapped on the window. The man inside jerked awake with the same wild eyes Marcus remembered seeing in his own mirror. Young, maybe 23 or 24, black, with the lean build and the 1,000-yard stare that told Marcus everything he needed to know. Marcus held up his hands. He said he was not here to cause trouble. Said he just wanted to make sure the man was okay. Said he had slept in his own truck enough times to know that it was not the most comfortable place to spend the night. The man stared at him. Marcus saw the calculations happening behind his eyes. Friend or threat, safe or dangerous, trust or run. Marcus told him his name, told him he was Army, 2 tours in Afghanistan, told him he used to sleep in his truck too, because the house felt like a trap, and his body would not let him rest. The man's shoulders dropped, just slightly, the first crack in the armor. He said his name was Jalen. He said he was Marine Corps. He said he had been out for 8 months and had not slept inside in 3. Marcus nodded. He asked if Jalen wanted some coffee. The cycle continued. Jalen came to the clubhouse, skeptical at first, then grateful, then committed. He got connected with resources, started therapy, joined the brotherhood of men who understood. He was not fixed overnight. None of them were. But he was healing, day by day, ride by ride. And when he was ready, he started giving back too. That was how it worked. Veterans helping veterans. Men who had walked through fire, reaching back to pull others through. A chain of hands stretching from the darkness into the light. Marcus became the vice president of veteran outreach for the Black Knights. He oversaw a network that reached across the region, connecting struggling veterans with resources, brotherhood, and hope. They did rides and rallies, fundraisers, and awareness campaigns. They showed up at VA hospitals and homeless shelters, anywhere that veterans might be falling through the cracks. But the most important work was still the simplest: a tap on a window, a cup of coffee, 2 words that could save a life. Me too. Marcus still slept in his truck sometimes, not often anymore. Maybe once a month on the bad nights when the memories got too loud and the walls started closing in. Keisha understood now. She did not take it personally. She just kissed him good night and told him she would see him in the morning. He had learned to make peace with his injuries. They were part of him, same as the scar on his shoulder from the IED and the way he still scanned every room he entered. He would probably carry them for the rest of his life. But he was not carrying them alone anymore. The Black Knights had given him something more valuable than therapy, or medication, or any of the other things he had tried. They had given him brotherhood, a community of people who understood, a purpose beyond his own survival. Darnell told him once that the best way to heal was to help someone else heal. That sounded like bumper sticker wisdom at first, the kind of thing people said when they did not know what else to say. But Marcus had learned that it was true. Every veteran he reached, every tap on a window, every me too that he offered, it healed something in him too. Like each act of connection was stitching together wounds that had been open for too long. He was not the same man who came home from Afghanistan. That man was gone, transformed by experiences that could not be untransformed. But the man he was now, scarred and healing, and determined to help others, that man was someone he could respect. That man was someone his kids could be proud of. That man was finally home. Thank you for watching this story about a veteran sleeping in his truck because his own house felt like a trap, and the biker who understood because he had been there too. It was inspired by the real veterans struggling with the invisible wounds of war and the peer support networks that helped them find their way back. If you are a veteran struggling with PTSD, depression, or thoughts of suicide, please know that you are not alone. The Veterans Crisis Line is available 24/7 at 988. Press 1. You can also text 838-255 or chat online at veteranscrisisline.net. Peer support from fellow veterans is one of the most effective interventions for PTSD. If you know a veteran who is struggling, reach out. Be patient. Do not push them to talk, but let them know you are there. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is "me too." Subscribe to Bike Diaries. Hit that hype button to boost this video. And if you want to support what we do, the membership link is below. Share this with everyone who needs to remember that healing is possible, help is available, and nobody has to carry these wounds alone. Marcus Thompson is 34 now. He still rides with the Black Knights, still runs the Veteran Outreach Program, still taps on windows when he sees someone sleeping in a parking lot. His kids are 12 and 10, and they know that their dad spent some time sleeping in his truck after he came home from the war. He does not hide it from them. He wants them to understand that even strong people struggle sometimes, that asking for help is not weakness, that healing is a journey, not a destination. Darnell Jackson is 60 now, still riding, still mentoring, still saying "me too" to veterans who need to hear it. He says Marcus is the best thing that came out of his own struggles, that helping Marcus heal helped him heal too. That is the secret nobody tells you about trauma. The wounds never fully disappear, but they can become sources of connection instead of isolation, bridges instead of walls. All you need is someone who understands. All you need is "me too."